So, hello and welcome for today's webinar. And today we have a little bit special about the introduction of our new GY HM800 series. And I will not use a PowerPoint as traditional, so I would like to talk really about this baby just here right in front of me. So let's have a quick view to the camera body. I show you here, that's the camera which I like to talk about. And if you don't mind, let me quickly put my image in the opposite direction, like in the corner here, so I can talk to you. So let me remove the viewfinder a little bit at first. That makes me easier to present you the camera body itself, and makes it a little bit easier to explain all the features which we have around the unit. So let's start from this side, from this camera. First of all, for the introduction, is what you have to know is this is the camera body. We called CHE at the end of our product name, for example GY HM850 CHE or 890 CHE. So you as a customer, you have the option to select only the body or the complete unit, including a very dedicated lens here in front. Why we split this? First of all, if you take the 890, which is the studio version of the 850, that allows you to use standard optics which are normally comfortable for the studio operation, like a Fujinon XT17 or XT20. So with the full background control and whatever you like to use. For the ENG version, we built a very dedicated optics, and it's up to you if you use that. But believe me, it's very, very unique. And if you buy the optics alone, if that will be possible, is it optics for, how should I say, more than €3,500 just for the optics itself. So you have a big benefit when you get the whole unit and get this dedicated optics. Let's start in the front with that. Well, next week we have a dedicated follow-on seminar where we go into detail, especially for the optics and how to do the adjustment of the optics, how you can use the autofocus and all the feature from the autofocus for this one. But let me explain you very quick that for the optics. This is a 20 times zoom lens. And what is dedicated on this one? It has autofocus and optical image stabilizer in. But this is not all. Also this lens works like a prime optic, so it takes send back a color aberration control. So that means you don't have green or red color aberration effects when you're shooting horizontal or vertical lines. It works in both directions. So compared to a 35mm optics, you get a ratio from 29mm up to 580mm. Also, this optics is very powerful in case of lightning. So that means with the same body we can reach the same sensitivity of the whole camera body, which is f12 at 2000 lumens. So the minimum illumination for the sensor is 0.15 lux, and you can start to do imaging around about 5 lux or 4 lux into a room. So a small light is enough, and you can use the super low lux feature of that camcorder. Well, what is also unique on the whole body itself, that's a multi-format camcorder. It's not just a single codec. So with this camcorder you have the capability to use XT-CAM-EX format, MXF format, AVC HD progressive format, and QuickTime format also. And also it's very unique, it supports H264 15 megabit recording. And there's a lot of discussion if you have 422 recording or 420. Well, it's 4.2, but it's 15 megabit H264, which gives you much more higher benefit than an MPEG 50 Mbit. So if you compare the images, especially fast moving image or a lot of details, very critical images, the codec works much more efficient than any MPEG coder with the same bit rates. So what additional feature you have that here on the lens. We start in the front. You have the typical lens unit which you use from the standard optics. There is some special bottom behind. Let me zoom that a little bit up for you. Okay, like here. So there is the typical connection for a controller, a zoom controller. Remove that. There are some other bottoms here which we coming next week. This is, for example, to do the adjustment of the back focus adjustment. Because this is an electronic lens, and this electronic lens, if you're looking here in the front ring, especially here in this area, you don't see not the typical macro ring, whatever, or the back focus ring, because this is fully electronically. The optics itself, which we have here, is also intelligent. That means it has an own firmware and an own software. Again, it's very easy to remount it, and of course, if you like to use any other optics, you can use that. We offer, for example, in case of a studio solution, Fujinon XT17 or XT20, because this optics also sends back the information for color aberration control. So, and the camera takes care also on this optics. Of course, you can use any other optics in front, but as long there is no collaboration feedback, you will not have a compensation of this. Also, you have adapters for a ½ inch or 2/3 inch optics in front. Let's have a look a little bit to the mechanical side. Well, as you see, if you already use our JVC camcorder, you will see that it's the same, almost similar design. But this design is already tested by a lot of camera people, and it's very well done when you put it on the shoulder. Why to make a new body? That makes no sense. So we changed the whole electronic. So it's a complete new camera compared to the previous model. What is also unique is you have a 4-channel audio system, and behind the plate here you have all the selections for your audio input. You have 2 XLRs here for the microphone up to here. You have 2 additional inputs which you can find here in the box. Let me zoom also this a little bit more up, a little bit more close up, like this. Okay, so here you have a mini jack, here called auxiliary input. This is a 3.5 millimeter audio input for the channel 3 and 4. So it allows you to use here a microphone, a wireless microphone. Of course, this is all phantom power drive. You can switch that on and off. You can have, instead of a microphone, you can have a normal analog input, and you reduce the dB input level. And this is an additional channel 3 and 4. This is very nicely worked for in case of event. You have the live microphones here, and additionally you have some other audio, maybe from an audio mixer, whatever, which you can record into the body. Also, there is an audio input area which we have here, audio output area. This is a channel 1, 2, or 3, 4. You can select this. This is an analog audio output standard where you like to use the audio somewhere else. Okay, you can use that. What else we have here? Of course, this is the secure area for your memory card, and we use SDHC or SDXC card, which I mentioned in the previous webinars for a 600 or 650. This is for us, and this is the goal, the best benefit media when you work on the line. You can buy it everywhere. It's quite cheap. You get it everywhere. The only what you have to take care of is class 6 or class 10 quality. Well, last time I lost it in my pocket, and my wife was washing, and still the SD card is still, so it's very safe. It's dusty. It's waterproofed actually. So your memory card is quite well done. And if you have not enough memory, simply go in the next shop and buy it for low cost. Well, this slot A and B. What else we have here in front? There is also another remote. See there, it is over there. It's a LUNC compatible input. So you have the focus control, focus, iris control, or even the zoom. So that works parallel. You can use the zoom control by the normal rocker level here at the top. You can use the controller over here, and you can use also the LUNC. All this is working parallel. It gives you a lot of option to control the lens. On this side here, I'll move the cable a little bit away. On this side you have the HDMI output, and you have also here a normal USB connection, but this is USB connection to make exchangeable data between the SD cards and to a PC. Let's go a little bit on the other side here. You have all these black buttons which I like to open. So you have here the remote control inputs. Let me do this. So here are the remote inputs. Let me bring that a little bit more up. Okay. Oh, here we are. So you have here remote controllers. This is for our RCUs, separate RCUs, which you can buy, ARM LP25 for example. You have here the normal composite video output. You have here the SDI output, and this is very special. You have an SDI in. This, what I have here, is the 890. The GY HM90, the difference between 850 and 90 is you have the option for all our studio adapters on the 890, and it has also pool feed recording. Pool feed recording means you have a separate SDI input here, which allows you up to 1080i recording to your SD cards. This is very useful. For example, you're coming too late to a conference or whatever, so you can share the signal with somebody else and input here the external signal, or for example from a master camera. It supports also the embedded audio up to 4 channel. The SDI output here, because this camera can record 1080p, so this output is a 3G output. So this is also very useful in case of an event or something else. You can have a live 1080p output. For example, it works very nicely to a projector directly in a full resolution at 60p or 50p depending on your system setup. Well, we have furthermore in and outputs here on the studio version. You know, we have here the studio adapter control remote. We have here the time code in and out. That's, by the way, and the Genlock input. This is also on the 850. So this time code in and out works also with our previous models, with the GY HM650. So you can lock the time code even with the 600 and the 650s. You have a Genlock input to make your studio configuration with other camera, to synchronize the camera. Well, this is the DC power input on the side and the detail. Let's move a little bit around the camera body. Let's go this side. When we look to the camera body here and have a small view behind the earphone jack over here, here we are. Okay. So I hope you can see this a little bit darker. This is the selection for the earphone selection and the audio output. So you can select channel in, out, channel 1 and 2, channel 3 and 4. And that's here for the earphone. There's another output for a separate headphone over here. And at the same time you see here the USB host adapter. And that's very unique, this host adapter here, because this host adapter is based for all the dongles which you need. For example, for Wi-Fi dongle, Cat45 dongle, 3G or 4G dongle, that allows you to do full networking, remote operation, FTP transfer, and live video transmission. You see 2 additional holes here. That's sometimes very useful. Is the adapter very big? You can fix that, or if you like, you can extend here this area to move the adapter up, whatever. So this is free for your own use. Okay, go around. We're coming to this side. Well, for the whole operation on the camera body, let's move that also a little bit up. For the whole operation here on the camera body, you have we say action buttons. This is, for example, you can see there's already some features selected from our side, but that we call user button 1, user button 2, user button 3. So this is the action button for very special operations. And all these buttons here, this button for example, the cursor button here, or even in the front of the camcorder, we call also user button, that allows you to make your own selection of features to that. Well, this is the typical operation body what we have here for the audio. Let's say microphone level left and right, a monitor level, etc. But there's much more on the audio section, which I'll show you a couple of minutes later. This is the main standard operation, switch on. If you like to have full auto, you can do that by software, but you can also use the single switch here. This is important to switch between recording and the playback mode. This is the status information, which is very helpful to get all the setups information, the networking features, and all these buttons. This is a simple switch to switch on autofocus on and off. Of course, let's look a little bit to the display itself. When we open that, and here is maybe a good example for the it's a very large display, LCD display. But typical in this size of LCD displays is you can see that is a typical glare image. Well, there's always a discussion: use glare or non-glare. Glare has the benefit the image quality is much more better visible, but the negative point is a sun. You have sun or reflection, you will be not able to see the image in a good quality. Well, in the package of the body, you get a special folia that's in the package, so you can put on the folia here on this LCD display, and then it's anti-reflection, so you will not have this mirror effect here. Of course, it takes you a little bit brightness of the LCD, but there is an electronic switch in the menu option to increase the back brightness of this LCD panel, and you get much more better visible image. So, but that is a selection which we want not take for you, so it's up to you. There's a lot of people likes that kind of imaging. Other people say, no, I don't want the reflection, so we make this folia. By the way, for the user, they have already GY HM650 and a 600. We also will provide this very dedicated folia very soon. I think latest in about 3 or 4 weeks we will have the folia, and you can order this folia here in our service, and you can add that to the screen. Well, inside here we have additional functions and settings of the camera body. For example, the LCD brightness setup, the LCD peaking, the audio selection, auto, manual for the channel 1 and 2, a display timecode free running, and a timecode setup. Well, this is normal common. All the operation, what we did here is on the side. So you have here also your audio selection, channel 1 and 2, auto or manual setup, the white balance setup, the gain setup, power on and off, the record. Here's another record button here in front of the camcorder body. Move that around. Here on the camcorder body. Let's go here. And I think it's good visible. Okay, that's good. It's good visible here. You can select the spot meter. You have the auto white balance button there. And it's also user button, so you can make a free selection of this button. What should be on there? And that's also very helpful. So this was quickly an overview of the mechanical the mechanical part of the camcorder. But the benefit of this, what I explained, is the multi-functionality, multi-operation, and also with these 2 SDI slots, which we have 2 SD card slots here, we can do a lot of things. First of all, we can record continuously. We can do dual backup recording. We can do backup on demand. Backup on demand means you can start the recording, and you can select another recording button, which is here on top. And for example, you start the normal recording, it's like a normal recording running, and suddenly you say, well, this is so important and don't want to miss anything. You can push another button, and when you push another button, it records on a separate card automatically the same content again as a backup file. Furthermore, This camera has, like the 650, has a dual encoding and is also very unique. So you can make the selection recording on card A an HD signal, on the card B you can record another HD format, or you can record SD, or you can record any web format at the same time. This dual encoding allows even more. We can do normal recording and we can do live streaming also at the same time and fully independent. So you can start the recording and you can start up the live streaming. Well, I talk about the light sensitivity in front. Light sensitivity is f12, and this camera is really light sensitive. But there is some adjustment you have to look for. Because if you have the lens settings, and let me give you an example. I switch from the camera body. Let's go back to the camera itself. And give me a second. I go to the external signal right over here. Okay. And give me a choice to impose my screen up to here. Let me close the iris. So, and now you see me into the menu operation of the camera body. So, and let me explain you what you guys see here on the left. Okay, here we have the power indication. Here we have here the slot information. You can see in the moment there is no card in. You can see how much running time you have on card A and B. This is also very important in the future. For example, if you're doing FTP upload, because this camera is able to do recording, and in the background we can do FTP uploading. For example, you can see card A is still recording and card B is in the background updating or transmission per FTP the files to your station. You can see here the recording setup and the resolution, and very unique is the 4-channel audio input selection and the indication what audio level you have in it. On the other side here we have the TC time control, date and time, etc. You can see here this manual focus and focus distance. You know, the iris, the focus ring has no information about the position of the F number. The F number is visible here. On the end there you have the F number settings, and of course your color settings. All this can be switched in by the display button on the side of the menu, so I can switch off detailed information to get that visible on the LCD or in the viewfinder. Well, I talk about the light sensitivity. Come back to this one. You have here the F number of the lens. So if the camera is more, the camera gets light sensitivity, you come to a physical situation which is called lens diffraction. That means you get a lot of lights and the iris gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and suddenly the image looks unsharp or looks washed out. At that point it's very important that you switch on the ND filter right on the side, and you can see you get then your ND filter information. Or somebody don't like to use the ND filter, they want to use the shutter speed and increase the shutter speed. There's another reason to drop down this lighting. But this is a very important point to handle the camera, because a lot of people using the camera make comparison with something else, but they don't care and don't see that this iris level goes too high. And there is an indication when we go here over F11, you can see there is a change, it gets gray. That means the iris is overshoot, is overdone, and you have to use the ND filter. Well, now we can discuss should be a big message or whether this is only a personal training by the user itself. So we're saying that when we make it gray here, with a learning procedure, you will easily learn that. Instead to make a big message here inside the screen, and that will be on the time you will be disturbance. Other camcorders, for example, drop the image and gets black. This is what we not want to do, because still you can do recording, let's say from the inside to the outside, Of course, the image lost the dynamic range, but still possible to do these shots. So keep in mind, if this iris goes too high, and as you know, the optimum for the iris ZM is normal level between 4.6 and 5.2 from the iris level to optimize your image. But this you have to take care. There's another point for the light sensitivity. Because what we do, we give the cameras two setups. And when you get the camera right off the box, you're looking about the menu option here. And then the first thing you should mention, you go to the camera process menu. And by going to the camera process menu, there is a dedicated settings, which called shooting mode. The shooting mode in the standard setup right off the box gives you a light sensitivity of f8. But it gives you better performance and gives you more higher range in the iris by using good weather condition like sunny day or even studio operation. So this is one of the presetting, and this is the right of the box. If you want to have the full performance, full light sensitivity, that is normally the setup which I say ENG mode, because the original idea was to set studio and ENG mode. So the ENG mode or extended mode is that, and it gives you the full performance of the brightness and the light sensitivity of the camcorder. This is a very important issue, because if you don't recognize this, and then you maybe miss the lighting, or you say, oh, it's not so light sensitive as I expected, but it's there. It's just here by the setup. Also, the low lux setup has a dedicated sensitivity setup. The right off the box is 30 dB, but you can increase the super low lux up to 36 dB, which allows you to really, if you have a small light, you still have color image. Of course, it's noisy, that's clear for this high gain, but you even can increase the low lux. So if you, as a VJ on the road, and you have whatever crime situation in the nighttime, just a normal flashlight is enough to start the shooting by using extended mode and by using the super low lux setup. Well, if we are looking to the menu structure right here, we can talk directly a little bit to other features. Maybe some of you see this picture, which is called reverse on and off. I can do that, so then the image gets rotate or it get off. And this reverse mode is a very funny thing. And let me switch quickly to the camera itself. This is when you want to do this. So if the room is very crowded, and suddenly that could happen on the press conference, you can hold the camera in this way and you can do the shooting. And still the image is correct by using the reverse picture mode. Well, okay. I have a double image. I don't want to use that double image like this. So here we go. So let's talk a little bit other important point by these setups. Well, all these, you see this is a system menu, and in the system menu you have a bunch of functions. And when we're looking quickly to the side bottom, let me show that to you here, and we go into the side bottom, you have a display bottom here, or you can use the menu bottom. When I put the menu bottom into that screen, let me do this. Okay, so we have our menu. I can press menu on and press menu on. When the menu is on and I keep holding the menu, or I press the display button, you can see a favorite menu. And with this favorite menu, I press menu bottom on and off, only the favorite menu is coming up. This favorite menu you can design by your own. So you take a feature, I'll give you an example. You go one of these functions and you say, well, let's do the flicker correction on and off. And as you can see on the menu, on the bottom is written user 1 add, and we're coming to our user bottom 1, 2, and 3. And take the user bottom 1, and the system asks me, you want to add? I say yes, and then it's added. And let's look to the favorite menu now. You can see the flicker correction is there. So by this, By simply pressing, you can create your own menu with only the items which you like to use. Well, let's look a little bit other direction. If you have the menu button just right where we're talking here, and I go out of the menu, maybe you want, for example, you are on the press conference and you want to lock the menu. If you want to lock the menu, press the cancel button here and hold it down for some seconds. Now, wait a moment, and then you can see on the menu right there. Let me do that. Okay. Oh, I can take this and okay. Hold on, give me a second. I want to show you. So here we can go. There, you get this lock message. Now all the buttons are locked. Only the record button is working. So you can block all the operation here. If you want to remove that, press the cancel button again, hold it down for certain seconds, and then it's gone and all operation is back. So this is another example of that one. Well, so let's go ahead with the other important menu items what we have inside the camera. Let's go to standard operations, some standard functions here, and let's have a quick overview over that one. Camera function, go into that. Well, you have typical bars on and off. You can see you can switch it on and off. And as a note, you can have the flicker compensation, flash band correction, whatever. If you find one of these items is gray, this is an important issue because not all functions can be used at the same time. Again, this camera is very powerful. Streaming, FTP, items, etc. Not everything can run at the same time. So when something is blanked out, that has a reason. So use the instruction and you'll see why, the reason why it's off. For example, if you have dual recording mode on and off, so the resources is used. Shutter speed setup, etc. I want to come to special setups here and take the standard samples again. We have here two things, which is called autofocus speed and autofocus assistance. Well, next week I go into details, but it's very important, and a lot of people have the wrong understanding for the autofocus, and they say, well, autofocus must be run as fast as possible. Well, in certain areas, yes, but in other areas, it's very bad. So in case of sport or whatever, autofocus should be run very quick. But in case of you doing people shooting, for example, at a wedding, inside a church or whatever, and the people, for example, first row, the people sitting second row, and so on, and you make a camera movement with that. If you have a fast autofocus speed, your image gets very, very bad because it's always starting flashing, because an automatic mode sees the picture with different eyes. Maybe you say, oh, this people should be in focus, but the automatic sees in a different way. So that is better to come in smoother depending on the shots what you did. So here it's a customer selection. Set the speed, whatever it's you're shooting, you like to shoot. Another area is the focus assist. Well, focus assist in the manual operation, I will not explain in detail because this is typical use with the blue lines or red lines. You can select and use the focus assist. Frankly speaking, in case of autofocus, you don't need that because that should be the optics should be do. But here is a special feature called area selection, and when we take the area selection, I can use the front ring to select where the unit should be focused. Especially for the focus area, for this area selection, it's important if you have a center shot or you have a little bit golden rule or a little bit right or in a little bit on the left. So it's very easy to select without going into the menu structure by simple use the front focus ring, because it normally is not workable because it's out of focus, and that is just a ring you can turn around. So what we did is the autofocus selection, you get a cursor mode and you can select left or right. This is something for next week which I'm going in detail to explain how to use that. So the autofocus has some capability. It says, okay, you can select with different kind of shooting which speed you want to shoot, and keep in mind, just speed is not enough. Sometimes it's necessary to have low speed, and also the area selection for that. Well, as long you shooting in HD by this camera process here, and you do manual focusing, well, you use maybe the focus assist, but focus assist is work with the small lines, but the good focus assist working means you need to have details, but sometimes you don't have so much details, a flat image or whatever. This camera has a much more better function we called expanded focus, and the expanded focus is developed with real end users, with professional camera people will say, well, we don't use the focus assist, we like to have a zoom up on the image because it's not an HD resolution, and when we do a zoom up we get a part of the image and we can do much better focusing just by seeing the pictures. Well, this function is inside the camcorder already, but you have to know how to use it, and it's only working for HD recording, not for SD. So because you need this picture information, the resolution information. How you can use that? If you want to use the expanded focus, we have another good function inside the camcorder which is called user switch. User switch setting allows you, which I explained before, use all the buttons in front of the camcorder, and you can select your own functions on these user buttons. Let me give you an experience here. For example, I take the user button 2, which is in the moment used for clip review, and you can go in and use this is all the function which you can attach to the unit, and I use this expanded focus. So now it's on the this button. To show you this, you have to see the LCD screen or the viewfinder screen. Let me move the here to the camera image, and let me zoom up. So here we are. So this is the setting of the screen, and let me do the screen up and go out. So this will be, not, for example, a typical image what you shot, and I do have manual operation for iris here, whatever. If the focus assist in, you will get all the lines visible here in that image. But I take the user buttons. Keep in mind the user buttons here in front, user button 1, 2, and 3. I use the user button 2, and I do a zoom up. As you can see, switch it on and zoom on. This is now, again, zoom up, 3 seconds, and it folds back. This is all very useful. So just you put the bottom, you can do that also on the front bottom. Keep in mind you can select any bottom you like, and this is very useful to do your focus adjustment. Much, from my point of view, just much better than the focus assist by itself. Well, this is just, you have seen 3 seconds in. You can select how this expand focus should work. And let's have, coming back to the signal, the in-screen. Okay, I'll superimpose that. Where you can select how this expanded focus should work. And you go over then the function process, go down, and you come back to the user switch settings, because the user switch settings area is quite important when you scroll down. And when you scroll down, you can see you can have the presettings of your basic setting. For example, the low looks, which I explained before, 30 dB, 36 dB. You can select up the clip review, the presetting. You can how the spot meter should work. Face detection, which have the camera built in. This is also a very important, a very good tool in case of autofocus when you use face detection by moving people in the room. As long as they're not running, but if they keep moving, like on a press conference or somebody is running, so you can keep the focus on a dedicated person. The sensitivity of this regulation, how it should work. And when we scroll down, you have the zoom speed set up, and here is the expanded focus. When we look into this expanded focus settings, we have the limited time, the momentary. Momentary means as long you hold the button, as long the feature is there, or the toggle mode. In case of the toggle mode means I push the button, it stays in this operation as long I push the button again. So that's your presetting of the camcorder. Well, so this, keep in mind you have the user menu, which you can select your own setups. You have the function keys, which you can select your own features, so you can design the camera right you want to use. And for the light sensitivity, again, make sure which kind of shooting mode you use, standard or extended mode. Let's go a little bit ahead about the other features and recording issues on the system. Well, when we go on the system, first of all, we have our record settings. And the record format settings is, for example, here I set it up to HD. You can select which kind of format you have: HD, HD plus web, and HD SDI, for example. And depending on the mode, on the camera body, you can also select which kind of input format you want to have. MPEG selection, the resolution, for example, here's our codec selection: MP4, MXF, AVC HD, QuickTime H264. As I mentioned, is a multi-format camera. The different kind of resolutions you have up to 90x1080, and keep in mind you have also frame and bit rates up to 60p, depending on the system set in 50p, of course, with H264 up to 50 megabit. The audio selection, 4 channel and 2 channel. Keep in mind, in case of AVC HD, you have only 2 audio channels because this is the codec not allowed to set up 4 channel. All the other codecs allows to have 4 channel. That for your system set. There are all the recording formats: pre-record, clip continuous, frame record, interval record, so you have some special recording modes. I'll not go to detail because there's a lot of bunch of information right that. So keep in mind there is also some work for you, so keeping reading the instruction manual, of course. Well, let's go ahead. There's also stamping. Let's go to another important feature, is for the system setup of the networking. Well, in case of networking operation, and it's basically the same as on the 650, we need a second encoder. So in case you want to do any kind of networking operation like remote, this is not only remote, as you know, you get also live streaming on your touchpad, or you can do real live streaming, and you can do FTP transfer. We need a second encoder. That means you must selection which kind of recording format you want to use on the recording, HD or SD. In the case of HD, for the streaming operation, all kind of formats you have there. In case of SD setting, you have streaming only up to maximum SD resolution, not over that. So this is the pre-selection you have to do, HD or SD. In case of HD, you have everything from very low end up to the top end, SD and any other resolution. And in case you select SD for recording, then of course gets from the low end to maximum SD streaming capability. Also, we need some resources, and the camera, as you know, has some outputs, which we have here on the side. Of course, this is the SDI output and the HDMI output. And when we want to do streaming, one of these outputs have to be switched off, of course. These settings we have here inside that camcorder. This is the network settings. So if we want to do networking, we have to select here this kind of information. That means network on, HDMI off. When I go to the menu, I can select network on, SDI off. This is a selection. Or when I don't use the IP functionality of this camcorder, you set to off, and then you have both outputs available. So for example, SDI goes somewhere else, like in a mixer, whatever, and HDMI go out the second time to a display. That is up to you, but Only keep in mind, in case of networking setting, one of these two have to be switched off. For example, in my item here, I have the HDMI off. Well, then we go down, and then we find all the settings for the networking. That's the setup for our browser. So this is the web server inside the camcorder. The camcorder has its own web server, so that means if you want to do remote controlling, and keep in mind we support you a full RCU. That is basically a feature which you buy for an RCU which costs €2,000. It's just web-based, software-based, and it's already built in into the camcorder. You don't need any dedicated software, just the IP connection, and you can use any web browser. So it doesn't matter if you have an Apple, if you have a PC-based system, or you have a smartphone, a tablet, whatever. As long as you have a web browser, you can have a fully remote control and also get a live image to the screen. That is really for standalone working, and you are a certain distance, and this is a perfect combination between this brand new ENG lens with autofocus. You put it on the tripod. You can use the tablet, do up your zoom setting with some pre-settings, and simply you can stop recording. You can see the live image even from a distance where you're completely alone. Take a wireless microphone, your one-man show to do this operation with this camcorder. No one else can do that at the moment. No one. So then in another one, when we go out here, is the connection setup. A connection setup using a wizard, and the connection setup is almost equal to a normal operation like a smartphone. Of course, there are some dedicated points when you use a 3G dongle or 4G dongle, or even you use a wireless dongle. Any dongle needs a driver software, which you cannot implement on the PC. You can do that, but on the camera it has to be done from our side. So we have a list which kind of dongle it works, and it's the same list as for the HM650. It's totally equal, and also the setup is totally equal. I already made webinars for the 650 series how to do live streaming. You can use the same webinar file. You can download it here from the website. And what is on the 650 is the same menu operation. So once you learn the 650, you can use that also for the 850. So there's already explanation video for this one. Well, there is some load setting, etc. But again, I will make a dedicated web seminar anyway for this 800. Especially for the live streaming setting, because that is something new on this live streaming. You have different kind of resolution setup, 1280. It goes, depending on my system setup, it goes up to 9020 1080, and we have a bunch of bit rates. And what is actually quite new is we're starting from 200 kilobits. You say, why the hell are you making 200 kilobits? What kind of quality is coming out? Well, quality is not like a real video, of course, but it allows you to be in a desert, use a beacon signal, just a satellite telephone, make an internet connection, and the maximum bit rate on such a connection is 254 kilobit. But 250 kilobit is optimized, you never will have that. So we must start up at 200 kilobit streaming, including audio. Of course, the tendency is on the audio that you have a good audio, and the video frame rate is of course dropped it. And you can select what you want. You can have SD resolution with 200 kilobit, or you can have a smaller resolution, which gives you more frame rate, of course. But this is possible to start. So you can go into the desert with a satellite telephone and make a connection to the internet, and you can do live streaming right from the box without taking any other boxes or expensive boxes around. Well, and that can go up. Yes, the moment you can see up to 5 megabit. Actually, it goes up to 8 megabit depending on the resolution settings. We have different kind of format. Keep in mind the streaming is a single cast streaming. It's from one point to another point streaming. If you want to go to the CDN network or the video hosting, you need to do something else, which is another training session. So what we have is UDP streaming, TCP streaming, or RTSP streaming. Please don't mix RTSP with RTMP. RTMP is the real-time messaging protocol, which is a different, this is not built in. That we cannot do at the moment, maybe later on. But it also works with UDP. If the video hoster required RTMP, there is always a time to negotiate with them to open a UDP port, which we already did. And there is another protocol, it's called 6E protocol. This is the only protocol at the moment which supports a forward error correction. But you need the whole system, which is designed by 6E. This allows you to stream up with package loss up to 30%. No one else with the standard protocol, even no RTMP, whatever, maximum 1% distortion on the network and you lost the image. But with 6E, we can go up to 30% package loss, and still you have an image without any disturbance. But this is something very dedicated. It's also very difficult to show that here in a webinar, but I like to try that one of the next seminars to go in detail on the 6E protocol. Well, here are the pre-settings of all these remote connections. It looks a little bit complicated. Actually, it's not. The only issue, you have to know a little bit knowledge how you can use one of the adapters. Well, there's more. There is also meta server and clip server. This is for the FTP transfer. The unit can transfer, and that's my favorite. For example, if the network is not good, you can use the FTP, you can do the shooting, and meanwhile you're doing FTP upload. And also the camera has a lot of additional features. For example, if you do a shooting, and there is the president is coming, and we have a 30 minutes presentation there, but the president speaks only 1 minute. You like to cut out this image, and the camcorder can do that. Inside the camcorder you can clip and cut the file without removing the SD card, without going to a laptop, without going to an editing system. You can do that into the camcorder very quick. Keep in mind with the user button 1, 2, and 3. We don't need more. And your original file is untouched, so the unit creates a new file for you, and it's also easy for editing later on because it's marked with the same clip name with an extension. It's clipped, so it's very easy to identify even for your NLE to cut this smaller file. And the benefit on the smaller file is, of course, less data quickly to transfer. By the way, with this new 800 series, you can do also the transfer by your remote controller. Well, I think that's a short overview, and I have some additional into the menu where I like to show you, which is also a little bit unique. Let me go back to the menu and give me some additional information for the, let's say, audio setting, because this is always sometimes a discussion point for the audio settings. Well, actually, we give this camcorder a lot of features for the audio setting, like a real mixer, actually. And this is some dedicated from videos, dedicated area. So you have here your presetting of your microphone level on the sensitivity setups for the input number 1 and 2. You can select also the auxiliary gain. You can select your channel 3 and 4 input level. Keep in mind, you have on the side, you have the normal resistors, but we have also built in a graphical setup for the audio level number 3 and 4. So when you go there, you can easily set up your volumes level here by the channel input out number 3 and 4. There is furthermore the reference levels where you should get down, and especially for the people in France, they're working with minus 18 dB, so, or someone else with minus 12 dB, so also these presettings depending on the country areas also there. There's audio channel limitations, is where it should be work and in which way it should be work. So sometimes this is necessary. For example, if you record with a microphone music or whatever, you know that some very loud instruments, other very silent instruments, so you can do the audio limitations. There's furthermore, there are filter selection for the different inputs. For example, go in here in the channel 1. So first of all, you have a built-in electronic wind cut. So if you use a microphone, whatever, it's external, internal, or the microphone here or wireless, you have additional wind cuts for the input. But there's also very unique, and this is the equalizer. Frankly speaking, I like really the equalizer. If you had a headphone here, and especially for all the people doing wedding. And this is a special remark for the people doing wedding in the East European areas, because you know they have different kind of music, and the instruments sometimes are very strange, very high noisy levels, which is a real issue for any automatic area, or you are close to a bass drum, whatever. This equalizer gives you really a choice because it's graphical. You go in, and when you have a headphone on, you can really select and drop down some frequency and increase some bass, so you can really match the real good audio quality. Of course, the audio quality is depending on the microphone. As I always said, if you use a separate microphone, is a little bit more attached, whatever, it's up to you how much you spend for a microphone. That can be that one which is attached, and you can spend another easily 1,000 euro or something more for an external microphone. And there are of course some big difference and also some cutting. But here you get an additional tool. Even with the supported microphone, you can have good results by using the, for example, audio equalizer. Well, for the video settings, quickly here to the video settings, you have the selection, which kind of output resolution you want to use, and of course if you want to have the SDI trigger built in. For example, this for somebody is interesting. Somebody today use an external recording to do a ProRes recording. Important information that this camera outputs 4:2, of course, at the SDI output. So if you use an external recorder in addition, and you want to record ProRes, for example, take an Atomos or Aja recorder, whatever you like to do, you can use the built-in SDI trigger. As long as the external device support it, you can switch that on and off here. There is some other settings, for example, the superimposed here, this output from the menu structure, you can switch on and off. Well, there was one function, give me a second, which I also want to show you. Smooth transition, pull out the wide speed we have. Oh, this one. This one is important point. Well, as I mentioned to you, let me go to the side image of the camcorder here. What I mentioned to you, you have this optics, this dedicated optics. Maybe you like to use a controller for the zoom. This is an electronic optics, so there is no possibility to use a mechanical wheel. And in case of the servo drive, you can use the lung input here to control the system. But if you take a normal lung controller, the normal lung controller is a rocker switch like this one, and that's normally made for zoom. But you would like to have the focus adjustment. So what we did inside the menu structure, and let me do that in this way. So you can go ahead here and say I want to switch zoom to focus. Zoom to focus switch means now the rocker switch from a lung controller works for the zoom for the focus function. So keep in mind, if you have a normal lung controller connected it, you can change the remote protocol, and then the rocker switch, which is normally used for zoom, it's going up to use for focus. Well, that's the last part which I have shown. So I think we have spoken the most dedicated part on the camcorder. Next week I will explain you how to do back focusing adjustment and also the additional autofocus features on the lens. Back focus, why back focus is important. Very quickly, is an exchangeable lens, and all the lenses have to be matched to the sensors. If you change that to a regular lens, of course, then you have a mechanical position to do the adjustment. With this lens, we have an electronic adjustment for the back focusing. Works in the same direction. There's only to push two buttons. It's very easy to do. But the most people, by doing the back focus, are doing a mistake. They're doing that in a normal light environment. Just a hint before you left is the back focus adjustments have to be done with a full open iris, otherwise your back focus adjustments all the time wrong. And I see a lot of professional users which are doing that on the normal light condition, and then suddenly they move in another room where there's less light condition and it's getting unsharp. By the way, about sharpness, all the settings on the camcorder which you get on the box is really designed with professional users, but there is also different mind of imaging. So therefore we have all these settings here in the camcorder to make individual setup, and especially for the menu settings. So keep in mind when we do this here, there's one process which let me show that quickly to the process bar here, is detail. You know, if you use the detail, you can select it up to 10. This setting 0 is made as a base setting, and somebody says, well, it's like contrast. It's like contrast on a display. There's a lot of people like to have a contrast, very high contrast, and then other people don't like that because it's not natural. But other people say, oh, this is what I want. Same thing here. Some people say, oh, I want to have a crisp, sharp image, and then you overdrive the detail or whatever. You can. That's why you can select if you like to have more details into the image, which creates, of course, more noise. It creates also other artifacts, but then the people don't care. So you can go up to the detail level and set it up to maximum 10. Here is another hint. There is also a skin tone selection which makes the image smooth, not sharp. So keep, you know, when you go to a studio, normally all get the powder here to make it smooth. You can do that electronically by using the skin tone filter. But somebody says, oh, he switched on the skin tone filter. Of course, that makes the image smoother. So if you want to have a crisp image, then of course you have to switch off the skin tone, because then you're losing the crisp image. It's depending what you're going to shot. It's depending on the producer itself. It's depending on the cameraman, whatever he wants. You can never do it perfectly with the right adjustment. That's why we're making a lot of these tools, and you can do the adjustment. And keep in mind you have your favorite menu and put that quickly on the right place. So that's all for today. Still in mind we have the chat room here. So if you have a question or there's a telephone number, you can ring me up here into that room. So I keep the next 10 minutes here in the room.